Well, the Shadow Home Affairs Minister Andrew Hastie shook things up yesterday, where he said he'd be out of a job if Sussan Ley pursues net zero by 2050. Joining us live is the Shadow Home Affairs Minister, Andrew Hastie. Andrew, it's good to see you this morning. So, to clarify things this morning, are you going to quit the opposition front bench if Sussan Ley signs up to net zero?
Well, good morning, Pete. Lovely first question. I think I need to make clear that there's a process underway, first and foremost, and that Sussan Ley and Dan Tehan are leading that process, and we'll come to a position when we come to a position. What I've made clear is that I've held this position very consistently since 2018, in fact, where I addressed a large crowd of AW workers outside my office in Mandurah here, where they formed a picket line. I was on the back of a ute with a bullhorn, and I made it very clear about my views on the Paris Agreement. So this is very consistent for me. I'm arguing my case, and we'll see what happens. But I think it's just common sense that if you've come out very strongly for a position on energy, for example, and you lose the debate, well, that makes your position untenable. And that's all I'll really say about that. I mean, it's pretty clear.
Well, I mean, because yesterday you mentioned if they did sign up to net zero, you'd be out of a job because you've, as you've said, nailed your colours to the mast, or words to that effect. So what was that in reference to? Was that you quitting if net zero by 2050 is established by the Liberal Party?
Look, I have a very strong view that we should not accept Labor's framing of this debate around emissions, particularly when China, India, South Korea, the United States, Japan and other countries are actually increasing their emissions. We should be focused on energy security. We should have a price target. We should be focused on our primary obligation, which is to the Australian people, and delivering cheaper energy for families, businesses and industry. And I think that's the direction we should go. And Labor at the moment has framed this about emissions reduction. And so if we accept Labor's framing, well then, which is net zero by 2050 and the targets on the way to that date, then we've got to work within their premises, which means for the energy grid, for example, no coal, limited gas, only 15 gigawatts out to 2050 and no nuclear power. And then that's before we consider other sectors of the economy that's going to be severely impacted by Labor. But
so much of the dialogue is around that comment of you quitting, Andrew, if Sussan Ley signs up to net zero. So is that what you're going to do? If the Libs sign up to it, is that what you're going to do? You're going to quit the front bench?
I'm a proud member of the Liberal Party. I'll serve where I'm serving as a Home Affairs Shadow right now, and I'll continue to serve until such a time as I can't. But energy policy is something I care very deeply about, and it's a hypothetical question.
Sure,
it's a hypothetical question, but fundamentally, I wouldn't be much use to the coalition if I'm out the front trying to sell a policy I don't believe in.
Okay, so that is that putting the onus on Sussan Ley to sack you rather than you walking?
No, that's just being entirely consistent with my beliefs, which I've held for a long time. Australians must come first. Australian energy security must come first. That's the position I hold in principle, and how that's reflected in policy is another thing altogether.
So, Andrew,
I think we're going to destroy our country on that current trajectory, and that's why I'm so opposed to sticking with net zero and Labor's climate targets along the way.
No, your position's very clear on that. Did Sussan Ley speak to you about those comments yesterday?
I'm not going to go into personal conversations had or not had. I don't want to indulge in intrigue. Sussan is our leader. She's giving an important speech today about getting our budget back in balance. And that's going to be an important message to the Australian people. I support her. I'm still part of her front bench. A lot of this is just scuttlebutt generated by people looking to make trouble.
Okay, but if you leave or quit the front bench, that would trigger an election of sorts for the leadership, would it not?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so at all. Most of my colleagues, in fact, don't support my position, so I'm in the minority here. I mean, if you pulled out a spreadsheet, Pete, you'd find that a lot of people don't support my energy position. So I am in the minority here, and I know that.
Oh, you'd be gunning for the top job, wouldn't you, Andrew?
Mate, what time is it here? It's 6:20.
No, thank you for getting up so early for us. But I mean, it's pretty clear. I mean, you're a part of the future of the Liberal Party from whatever future is left after that terrible poll on Monday. Are you worried at all of if things go on the current path that you'll be going out with the tide?
It's a snapshot in time. We've got 2 years to rebuild, build some great policy. and demonstrate to the Australian people we're fighting for them and a more secure and prosperous Australia. That's the mission. We've got 2 years. The clock is ticking. We've got to get to work. So it's a snapshot in time. I think there's a way forward.
How is
there's a pathway to victory.
How is your relationship with Sussan Ley at the moment?
It's fine. We're doing well. I mean, it's perfectly fine.
Okay, but you're not talking.
No, we're in communication.
Okay.
We're not besties on the phone every day as you'd expect. I'm not talking to all my colleagues every day. Okay. We're all back in our electorates at the moment doing our jobs.
I just want to there's a quote I saw in the SMH that sort of jumped out, and this came after your interview on the ABC yesterday. It said that a Lee ally, Sussan Ley ally, was quoted as saying, "For a bloke who thinks he can be a future leader, he's picked a hell of a day to say he'll die on a hill of net zero," after that doomsday climate report was released that you talked about. And that source said that you don't give a stuff. How would you respond to all of that talk?
Well, whoever said that, they obviously didn't have the courage to put their name to it. But secondly, they've got a severe case of Stockholm syndrome. They're hostage to Labor's framing of this whole debate, which is focused on climate. Our first priority is to the Australian people, not to the International Panel on Climate Change of the United Nations. And I think that's really important. We can't accept the framing Labor has put down for us. We need to deliver cheaper energy for the Australian people, for families, businesses and industry. That's what we need to focus on.
Okay, just one more before we go. It looks as though, Andrew, I'm just watching Kieran's vision coming into us. You can't see much at the moment, but it looks as though, and Detective Kieran Gilbert mentioned that it looks as though a PNG security deal is going to be signed after there was some kind of problem yesterday. There had been some concerns about our relationship with our Pacific neighbours after Vanuatu seemed to prefer China over us. If that deal does happen, are you pleased about that?
Definitely. I think it's so important that we build stronger, deeper relationships with our Pacific Island countries. We have history that goes all the way back to before the Second World War, but especially developed in the Second World War, where we had great support from our Papuan friends. It needs to continue into this century and beyond. So this, if it's inked, will be a good thing for Australia and for Papua New Guinea. All
right, Andrew, appreciate it. You had a coffee yet this morning?
Right now, I'm going to head for one. Thank you.
Yeah, good one. All right, that's the Shadow Home Affairs Minister.